Hey, yo, Foxboro. Thank you guys for joining me for another discussion about the Patriots this week. Thank you for being patient with me for once again needing to push it back till Tuesday when I normally go live on Mondays. But yesterday, I actually was guest hosting another show called Know Your News, which is part of Fightful.com, which is, it encompasses a lot of sports and stuff. But I think it got known a lot for covering wrestling. So I guest hosted that show with John Alba. So be sure to go and check that out. I do have that in a playlist on my page, like on my YouTube page, the front page. I think it's under podcast appearances. I believe that's where I put it. So make sure you guys check that out. We talked all about the current news stories, the biggest news stories of the week. So it was a lot of fun, and I was actually able to talk about things other than the Patriots. So please check that out. And today we're going to be talking about, of course, the Patriots versus the Colts, which I feel like had a lot of interesting things. There's a lot to talk about, I think. And so let's get into it. I wanted to first talk about some of the interesting things that I saw just regarding the game and the teams in general. Some of it was before the game, some of it came from the game, but I feel like some of this was like too good to not mention. So the first would Mike Reese put out right as the game started, basically during the coin toss. So the Patriots called heads. I don't know if they don't always call heads. But anyway, so they lost the coin toss, and Mike Reese freaked me out because he put out a tweet that said the Patriots are 0-3 this season when they lose the coin toss. So thank goodness they were able to change that streak this week with a win. Sorry, someone was texting me and I got concerned for a second. So that was good to see. Another tweet from Mike Reese was from ESPN Stats Info, which is always a good Twitter to follow for random things like this. The 44 yards combined between the Patriots and Colts in the first quarter marked for the fewest in an NFL game this season, and the fewest since week 1 of the 2019 season when the Packers and Bears combined for 30 yards in one quarter. So not necessarily a great start for either team. And especially for those that are concerned about, what's going on with Mac Jones and the offense. I mean, there's a lot to talk about there, so I don't blame you guys for being concerned. But yeah, that was not the best of starts, that's for sure. We know that the defense went off in this game. I mean, it was a collective effort, which was good to see. And I've mentioned that several times, that it's nice to see a lot of it not fall on the shoulders of Judon specifically, because that's a lot of the case last season. And we know that Judon kind of fell off towards the end of the year, which I've said a million times makes a lot of sense. When you're carrying the defense all on your back, you're bound to fall off at some point because it's going to get heavy. So this was the first game, and this is funny. So we know that the Patriots got 9 sacks on the game. So when they had 8, it was the first 8 sack game for the team since 2015 against the Bills, and it was their third of the Bill Belichick era, which was in week 2 of 2015. The Patriots beat the Bills 40-32, and the guys who had sacks, Chandler Jones had 3, Jamie Collins 2.5, Ninkovich with 1, and Dante Hightower was credited with half a sack. So the Patriots set the record, a franchise record, with 9 sacks on the day. And we'll get into that soon, but we know that was a fantastic showing by all of them. And it was really nice to see, like I said, seeing more guys step up, guys that we haven't really been talking about this season. We've talked about Dietrich Wise and Matthew Judon, but we got a lot of good stuff there from like Uche and whatnot, but we'll get into that. Another one from Pro Football Reference, which goes back to 1991. This stat does. This is just the third time that a team has gone 0 for 14 on third down attempts in a game. There have been, apparently it's never happened before, which I think if you watch the post-game celebration video that the Patriots post every single week when they win, I think Belichick announced that to the team, and you could just kind of see some of the guys in the back, especially Jalen Mills, I think it is, was shocked. Like, they didn't have any idea that was happening. So, I mean, that'll tell you exactly how well that they were performing. And I think they also did they go 0 for 2 on 4th down? I'm going to check. I actually have the play-by-play up here. Let's see here. Maybe it was 0 for 1 on 4th down. There's downs. No, 0 for 2 on 4th down. So, hey, I mean, they were showing out in this game. So kudos to you guys. This is another one. There have been 10 wins this season of 23 plus points, and New England has 3 of them. So, I mean, it's kind of one of those stats that I feel like goes against what we've been seeing, or the struggles that the offense has clearly been having. Obviously, they've been performing pretty well, but I think, there's some context that might be needed. Still just an interesting stat, though, and I felt like it needed to be shared. The Patriots at this point in the season, they remain in the middle of the league with an even turnover differential. They currently have 17 takeaways while also having 17 giveaways, which is tied for the most in the league. So, I mean, this is a lot better than where they had been just a few weeks ago. I mean, it was not looking good, and we know that this week was pretty good as far as turnovers go with Mac Jones, which has been an issue with him. He's thrown an interception in every game that he's played in, and this week was the first game this season that he didn't throw an interception, nor did he fumble or anything. That came from his receivers, which of course you can't go one game without that happening. And then just to cap it off, because we know all of the drama surrounding the Indianapolis Colts over the last few days. This came from Andrew Callahan. He tweeted, demanding rule changes, sparking Deflategate, calling the worst fake punt in NFL history, and firing the head coach to replace him with an ex-player / high school football coach / ESPN analyst. No team loses its mind after losing to the Patriots quite like the Colts. And I just felt like that completely encompassed that team as a whole, and I am just forever grateful that I am not a fan of the Colts, because it has to be, I don't know, I just feel like it's one of those teams that has to be kind of discouraging and frustrating to be a fan of, because they've just struggled for so long. I mean, basically since Peyton left, and that was a controversy in and of itself, but it's been a long time that they've had to deal with this kind of stuff, and it's only getting worse in the middle of the season. So I want to start off with, like I said, we're going to go over the good and the in-between, because I feel like there's some that doesn't necessarily have to be said to be good or bad, and the not so good, because I hate saying bad, because I try to be nice. So I want to talk about the good stuff first, which, I mean, how can you not mention the pass rush? It was absolutely crazy. So the Patriots pressured Sam Ehlinger on 45.2% of his dropbacks, which was, I mean, how is he able to accomplish anything? I kind of feel bad for him, because it was only his second start and he was kind of just thrown in there. I mean, on a whim, I guess. I mean, Frank Reich was like not happy with what he was seeing from Matt Ryan, which makes complete sense. But I mean, you threw a bunch of money at him to get him from Atlanta, and then halfway through the season you bench him. I don't know. I don't know. So the leaders for the day in that category, Judon had 3 sacks, a hit, and a hurry. Bentley had a sack, a hit, and 2 hurries. Uche had 3 sacks, 1 hurry. Wise was credited with a sack and 3 hurries, and Tavai had a sack and 2 hits. So again, like I mentioned earlier, definitely a collective effort, and it's really cool. It's nice to see Tavai as well, because he was kind of scrutinized player at the beginning of the season. I think even I have mentioned once or twice that he wasn't performing that great, and he was getting labeled as Patricia's like pet, kind of, just because he took him from Detroit. But yeah, so it's great that we saw his involvement as well. And over the past 2 weeks, the Patriots have applied a 43.6% pressure rate on Zach Wilson and Sam Ehlinger, which is phenomenal considering they also don't have Christian Barmore, who had been a force on the line, and they struggled at least in that first game without him up the middle. So very impressive performance by them. And of course, we have to go to talk about Matthew Judon because, I mean, it's Matthew Judon, and we are forever grateful that he is on the Patriots and that somehow Belichick was able to finesse the league once again and snag him one of the best players on defense. And it's his performance this year is crazy. I think we were all in awe of how well he played last year in his first season with the Patriots, but he's basically putting that to shame at this point, given how he's playing this year. So in the first half, he had 2 sacks. I believe so did Uche. So, I mean, I think he got a sack on the first. It was the first drive. So he had a sack on the first play of the game and on the third, which was negated by a penalty. So he would have technically had 4 sacks on the day. And then he got another one on 2 more third downs, and one of which was completely unblocked, which is just kind of funny when, you know, we think about preparing for a team and you know that they have a player on their defense specifically that is playing at the level that Judon is playing. And he is one of the, if not, I mean, at that point, he was tied for the highest or the most sacks in the league at that point. Now he has it for sure. That they didn't prepare better for that. And Reich was actually asked about that in the post game, because I think a lot of people were just a little bit shocked that, I mean, there was even a point in the game where the offensive line did not cover Judon. Like, if you're gonna let somebody run free unblocked, I would assume that you would not want that to be a guy like Matthew Judon, but it happened a few times. So he was asked about preparing for Judon and assuming that was a focus in their preparation throughout the week. And Reich's answer is very weird because it doesn't really line up with what we saw on the field. And obviously we understand that Judon is playing at an insane rate, and it's not going to be easy for many offensive linemen to try and stop that at all. But I mean, I felt like it was a pretty weak effort from them throughout the entire game. But Reich said, yeah, he's a really good player. We had a lot of focus on him. We were trying to put the back to his side, but they were running games with him. They beat us on some games. You know, they executed some games pretty well that we didn't execute on. He's a great player. Obviously, he leads the NFL in sacks. We knew that coming in. We had to try to get him a lot of attention coming in, chip him and slide to him when we could, but obviously we didn't do a good enough job. And I'm like, I feel like that's kind of an understatement. And if he was really your focus of the week, then I'm a little unsure about what exactly they did to prepare for him, because it didn't look like they really did anything. I mean, he got 2 sacks in the I would have to look and see how many sacks they even got in the first half. I think it was like 4 sacks in the first half in general. So anyway, he is currently at 11.5 sacks on the season. He set his career best record last year with 12.5, and with 8 or 9 games left, I mean, he's going to blow past that. So PFF has projected a lot of stats, end of the season stats for players, and one of them has been Judon. So per PFF, he is projected to get 21.7 sacks on the season, which I'm like, please just hit like 22 or 23, because I think that would set a single season record. And he is projected to have 6 passes defended and 2 forced fumbles. I don't know exactly how many of those he has at the moment. So let's look at that just for context, because I forgot to write that down. 2022. So he has 1 forced fumble. So they're projecting that he'll get 1 more. And he has 3 passes defended at this point. So, I mean, he looks like he's going to be breaking like everything. So, I mean, it's gonna be. I'm just so excited that the Patriots have him. I feel like it's. I can't say that enough. So like I alluded to already, he does lead the NFL in sacks by quite a large margin through 9 weeks. He is at 11.5, and no other player has more than 8.5. I don't think anyone in last night's game got anywhere near that. So he's also tied for second in quarterback hits with 19, tied for 5th in tackles for a loss with 10, and he's second in pressures. So He is having himself quite the season. And what I really like too is because, when there's these players that come into the Patriots on free agency, sometimes they don't necessarily have that Patriot-esque attitude, or when a player is playing as well as he is, it can very much become a thing that's all about them. It's an ego thing. And it's not Slater. Judon is not about that, and he made sure to discuss this, and I just wanted to share this quote because I just thought it was really cool to hear from him. So he said, Slate kind of talked to us about struggling, and when you're struggling and when you have individual success but you're not getting the wins you want, you find out who you are and you find out what kind of teammate you are. And I'm the type, we could have won the same game, we could have had the same game, and I could have had no sacks. Uche, Wise, Jennings, they could have had all the stats and I could have come up here the same way. It's all about the wins and losses for me. It's all about striving for something bigger than myself. So I know that's the Patriots way, the Patriots attitude is a little bit controversial, I think, at this point. People kind of don't really dig it and whatever, but I like that that Judon is on our team and that he's a leader, and that there are so many younger players that are able to learn from him, and that he has this type of attitude because that definitely rubs off on other guys. So if there is anybody that kind of is maybe getting out of pocket a little bit, Judon is there to kind of set them straight. And before we move on, I want to make sure that we talk about Josh Uche. He had 3 sacks, and Belichick revealed, I think it was this morning, I don't know if it, or maybe it was yesterday, that Uche now decides the play call on 3rd down. So quite a bit of responsibility given on him. I think this is his 3rd season. So, I think that kind of shows you what type of player that he is and the type of respect that he has earned from his head coach. So, and that's not always the easiest. So shout out to Uche. You're doing a fantastic job. And then we cannot not talk about Jonathan Jones. He came in really clutch yesterday. I knew that he was going to have a season that was going to be huge, and so far he's definitely delivering that. He's playing in a contract year. So that might have some sort of motivation for him. I don't know. But he blocked a punt in the 2nd quarter. And at that point, the Patriots hadn't been able to get into the end zone. So they had only gotten 2 field goals at that point, which the block punt was recovered by Schooler. And they were able to set that up for a touchdown. So that was good. He also had a pick 6 late in the 4th quarter. So a lot of pressure brought on Ellinger. So that forced the throw out, which allowed Jones to I'm back. Okay. I was like, I can't see me. My internet just went kind of woozy for a second. So anyway, basically he sealed the win with that pick, and helping with what we already talked about, the takeaway, giveaway differential. Thank God, because that would have been a hot mess yesterday. And I want to talk about Brendan Schooler. I actually wrote an article about him that I think just came out a couple hours ago on Musket Fire. So make sure you check that out if you follow me on Twitter. I don't think I posted it yet, so I'll make sure to do that. But if you want to just go to the link in my bio or just check it out on musketfire.com, I did write about him being the replacement for Justin Bethel. It was a little bit of a questionable decision at the time when Belichick decided to waive Bethel, but paying off at this point. So if you want to read more about that, please check that out. So Brendan Schooler is an undrafted free agent rookie, in case you guys completely forgot. And he is a special teams ace already. He's gotten a lot of compliments from Belichick. He spoke about him yesterday, I believe, and he refers to him as Schools, which I think is a funny little nickname. And then also Matthew Slater spoke about him. I believe it was post game. So, if you're hearing a lot of that type of compliments coming from a guy like, not just your coach, but also from a legend on special teams in Matthew Slater, then that'll tell you how good you must be playing. So in this game, he recovered Jonathan Jones' blocked punt, returned it for 6 yards, which led to the Patriots' first touchdown of the day, making it 13-0. He leads the team currently with 8 special teams tackles and 3 fumble recoveries, and he currently ties for second place in the league for solo tackles with 7. So he's very clearly making a name for himself already, and it's really assuring to see, because I was one of those people that was a little bit skeptical. We know that Belichick has a great record when it comes to bringing in undrafted free agents and those that make the team, and they end up being really great. But Justin Bethel is a guy that was highly sought after before he signed with the Patriots because of how dependable he is on special teams. So letting him go for an undrafted rookie was just a little bit scary. So I'm really glad that he has proven most of us wrong, I think, and kind of settled those concerns that we all had. And I wanted to talk briefly about what we've seen from him so far, because it's every 3 games or so he's got a big play. There's been other times too, but these are the ones that I think have stood out the most, which first comes in week 2 at Pittsburgh. There was a muff punt by Gunnar Olszewski, which was recovered by Schooler, and 2 plays later, Harris got the touchdown. Then we have week 6 at the Browns. Chester Rogers muffed his punt, which was also recovered by Schooler. And then one pass to Tyquan Thornton for 19 yards got the touchdown. So, I mean, he's coming in clutch for sure. Being a big piece to, handing the offense opportunities. It's great that the defense has been doing that this season, but the fact that it's also coming up from special teams is pretty special. And, anything that they can do that will possibly benefit the Patriots offense in any way is a huge thing this season specifically. So shout out to you, Brendan Schooler, or should we call him Schools? I haven't checked the comments. Sorry, guys. Hello, Jeff. Hello, Chris. Better late than never, but thank you for being here. So I want to talk about the in-between, and this might be a little bit controversial because I'm already getting roasted about it on Twitter, but I'm going to say it anyway because this is just how my mind works. And if you don't agree, then good for you, brother. But the in-between, I'm going to say Mac Jones. So there's a lot of conversation about Mac Jones, and I think I'm going to write another article about him tonight because, I mean, he's even being talked about like on ESPN and analysts and all this stuff. So there's a lot going on with him right now, but and I alluded to the first half of the game being rough for both offenses, basically. He ended the half 8 of 13 for 62 yards and a touchdown, so not wonderful, but not horrible at the same time. I mean, clearly they were, I think it was 13-0 at halftime. So getting the job done well enough that they put them in a position to win or be on the way to winning. But a lot of what people are talking about is his demeanor and what the issue is, like what the root of the issue is. Is it regression from him in only his second year? Is it is his growth being stunted by Matt Patricia calling offensive plays with Joe Judge also in his ear from changing the offense? Or there's even the conspiracy theory that Patricia doesn't like Mac and is purposely trying to sabotage him. So I mean, there's a whole plethora of levels to what may or may not be going on with Mac Jones, and I haven't really formed my opinion yet. I kind of feel like I'm in between with him being stunted and then obviously something is going on with him, which I think can go hand in hand with the stunting. Like if there's not real built trust and partnership between him and Patricia, then I think that's going to lead to the issues that we're seeing, especially his awareness on the field. That's not something that he has ever really been prone to do. I mean, and it's gotten pretty bad this year. I mean, it's something that I think a lot of us have pointed out. If you watch the game and you tweet during the game, then you'll probably see somebody mention it once or twice or three times. And so I feel like at this point it's really hard to pinpoint what exactly the issue is. And I feel like that's probably why there are so many different scenarios that are being talked about, because people are really trying to pinpoint what the issue is and hoping that it is something that can be fixed. I think that we saw a lot of the issues developing throughout the preseason, the playbook changing, McDaniels leaving, Matt Patricia working with the offense when he didn't have any previous experience. And I feel like that's kind of translated over into the regular season. And as Chris said, I haven't read, Mac is struggling firstly because of the offensive line issues, and then secondly, the change of coaching. Yeah, and then we do have major inconsistency on the offensive line. And Mike Reese posted a couple tweets, I think, about it with some video to show you how inconsistent the offensive line has been. And we know that in the last 2 weeks, especially in the last 2 games, a lot of those issues have been exemplified because of David Andrews' absence. And I think that he was kind of an underrated player. I mean, maybe not necessarily from Patriots fans, but yeah, definitely a huge blow to them and the protection on Mac. So hopefully he will be able to play after the bye week, because I think they're going to need it, especially going against the Jets once again. The Jets are hungry. They are looking for blood, especially after just beating the Bills. So, losing to the Patriots just a week before, and then beating the Bills, they're going to want to look for a win against the Patriots. So I think this is a topic that I could basically just go on a live stream or make a whole video about, or like a 100 tweet piled thread on Twitter. But I'm no football expert. I am not a coach. We all preach and Belichick we trust, but I feel like this is one of those issues where it is a little bit concerning, because the things that we are seeing doesn't seem to be at all of an issue within the coaching staff. So I don't know. And for all of you people who have mentioned Josh McDaniels, which I have been one of those, I know that we can't trust, owners and whatnot at their word, but apparently Josh McDaniels' job in Las Vegas is safe for now. So I don't know if we can really look forward to him coming back next season, or even halfway through the season, whatever, to call plays again. I really do hope that Belichick will figure something out if this keeps happening, because I don't think that Mac should be the sole person that has to deal with the repercussions of, not a good offensive season. I think it's kind of unfair to him for have to be the scapegoat, basically. Chris says, it does seem strange that the two of the biggest issues we have are the offensive line and the play calling. Where is the link? Yeah, exactly. And I've said this multiple times. I've said it on here too, that I'm not against a coach who has predominantly coached on one side of the football, then switching to the other side. I'm not against that whatsoever. I just think that him dealing with two massive pieces of a football team, two really important parts of a football team, I think that it's like too much for him, because I mean, like, he's never done either of these things before, and then you're trying to throw all of this at him, like, and it's kind of confusing to think, like, how can he do all of this? Like, in practice it's whatever, because they can go off and do their own drills, and so he can work with this unit, and then they can go off and do this, and you can go over here. But like in game, like, how is he able to split his time between having conversations with Mac Jones and then talking to the offensive line and coaching them? Like, I don't know how he has the time to do that, and I feel like it's a clear issue. But then, like I said, you kind of feel crazy, because generally Belichick is very aware of these things, and if anything, is the first person to see. And we like to pretend like we are football experts from our couch, and so you're like, okay, well, Belichick says it's an issue, so then it must be an issue. But then when he's not making it seem like it is, then you kind of start questioning yourself. You know what I mean? So anyway, we could talk about this a million times every single day, all day long. But I'm going to move on to some of the not so good. And this pains me a little bit to say, but Cole Strange continues to struggle in Andrew's absence. And I think that, the sides of him being a rookie have certainly showed in the last 2 games, which I think that you kind of can't really blame him completely because, David Andrews not being alongside you is going to be a massive hit to any young player learning how to play the game. And he actually got benched once again on Sunday. He was only in for 15 snaps. He was benched for Isaiah Wynn, ironically, for the majority of the game before Belichick did let him go in. I'm sure it was like once the game was basically put away, he was brought back in. He was penalized again. So I think, his struggles what has led to him being penalized. Because I think he has like 3 or 4 now over the last 2.5, 3 weeks, I think. And so I wanted to break this down too. Someone talked about it. I can't remember. I copied this from Twitter, but he said from weeks 4 to 7, Cole Strange ranked 6th among guards with an 81.7 pass blocking grade. And over the last 2 weeks, he ranks 62nd with a 21.8 blocking grade. So they're going to have to figure something out. I'm assuming that it's going to have to, I'm assuming a lot of it has to do with David Andrews being gone. But they also keep rotating players in, which is something that they were doing a lot in 2020, and that was predominantly due to injuries. So it wasn't necessarily because someone wasn't performing well, so they're trying to figure it out. But we have Isaiah Wynn rotating in, Cole Strange being benched, Marcus Cannon coming in, Onwenu over here, or you know what I heard? He pronounces his name Onwenu. I have to try and remember. That's how he says it. Onwenu, not Onwenu. Onwenu. More you know. So they have to figure something out, because obviously this is going to just continue leading to struggles for Mac Jones, and it's not fair for Mac to be taking the brunt of all of it. So what are you guys saying? Comments. Yes. Chris says the last 2 games has shown what a miss David Andrews has been. Yes. And thank goodness he re-signed with us. He didn't go to the Dolphins. What was it, 2 years ago, when he was playing around with our feelings? It was so rude. But yeah, no, they're definitely missing him. And, James Ferentz, I can't pronounce all their names right. He's done okay, but if you watch some of the offensive line stuff, even the ones by that I said Mike Reese has posted, you can see you can't replace the production and the stability at the line that Andrews has. So turnovers, I kind of already alluded to that. We saw that Mac didn't turn the ball over, so he definitely deserves applause for that. But Myers and Bourne both fumbled, so it was another game that they just couldn't get out of without fumbling or throwing an interception. It's just, continues to be an issue every single week, and it's unfortunate because, the defense is doing such a good job at handing them more opportunities, and they're just giving it straight back. So, I got hiccups. I've already kind of talked about this too, but the offense overall has just been kind of a mess. And that is something too that I think is not on the shoulders of just one person, or, the offensive line is the only one to blame. It just feels like a collective thing. Like we already talked about Mac, the offensive line, Matt Patricia. It's just a hot mess in general. And this stat says against the Colts, 38.7% of the Patriots offensive plays went for no gain or negative yardage. So even though they won 26-3, right? Yeah. They weren't able to get a whole lot done, no matter what they were doing, running the football, throwing the football. It just happens that they were playing against an overall poorly run team, and, their head coach got fired the next day. So, the other thing that has been talked about a lot, I think some people had noticed it during the game, but it's been talked about because Belichick confirmed it today, that he noticed that Shaq Leonard, for sure, is what he said, quote, for sure seemed to know the Patriots' calls on multiple offensive plays. Said he saw the same thing from CJ Mosley again when they were playing the Jets, and he said, quote, it was almost like Mosley heard the play in the huddle. He was so fast. So I think that maybe, having 3 first downs in a row start with a run is probably not a good idea. I don't know. Maybe we should just change things up a little bit and stop being so predictable. It was the biggest gripe that most of us had when Josh McDaniels was around. And we are seeing that issue once again with Matt Patricia. And you can give him so much leverage because of his inexperience. But I think that, like, for anybody, even us couch experts, like, to not keep doing the same thing over and over again because the defense is going to figure it out. Like, I mean, and that's part of the thing, like I was saying about Belichick, is like, we're noticing this, the media is noticing this, analysts are noticing this, and yet nothing is being done about it, or there's no stress about what's going on. So it's a very confusing time. I'm glad that they have a bye week because maybe they can just try and figure things out. I just always get nervous because over the last few years, they have not been historically good coming out of a bye, but we play the Jets next, and then the schedule gets pretty difficult. So hopefully this is going to give them the rest that they need. They can figure things out, come up with a better game plan, and go from there. So that is all I have for today. Don't forget to check out Musket Fire for all of my articles. I had 2 go out today, and you guys are doing fantastic, helping me get lots and lots of views. So I want to try and build upon what I did last month. And like I said, I do have an article on Brady and what he has been saying as of last night, his most recent comments on Belichick. And then another piece out on Brendan Schooler. And then for all of you guys that are a fan of One Patriots Place, make sure you guys check it out tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern, because Phil Perry of NBC Sports Boston is going to be joining the crew and breaking down everything that's going on with the Patriots. And I'm assuming probably answering a bunch of your questions. I think he does that like every week, mailbag questions. So make sure you guys go in there, ask your questions, because I mean, he is a encyclopedia of knowledge when it comes to the Patriots. And because it is a Patriots bye week, I will not be back until next week. It should probably be, I think it's next Friday. Yeah, because I don't have a game to talk about this week. But I think I'm going to try and figure out some other content that I can post in the meantime. Whether or not that is going to be live streams, I am not sure. But to stay updated, make sure you guys follow me on Twitter at smarshxo and subscribe to my channel, because I can finally post on the community tab, so I can ask you guys questions there, get your feedback, get your comments, whatnot. So make sure you do that so you can stay up to date with what is going on with me. If you're a wrestling fan, I did do a post WWE Crown Jewel reaction on Saturday. Make sure you guys check that out. And for all of you guys who missed at the beginning, I was a guest co-host this week for Know Your News with John Alba. You can check that video out from yesterday in my podcast appearance playlist. And be sure to give us some thumbs up, some comments, because, maybe if you guys give me some good feedback, he'll have me back on. So anyway, guys, I will see you when I see you. I'll talk to you guys on Twitter. And until then, go Pats. Bye, guys.